The Max Headroom incident revisited. Who hijacked television in 1987 and why? Max Headroom was the computer-generated TV personality who became a cultural icon in the mid-1980s, famous from a British TV movie, the American series, and Coca-Cola commercials. On the evening of November 22, 1987, during a WGN-TV news segment about the Chicago Bears, the broadcast was suddenly replaced by an image of a figure in a Max Headroom mask and suit, moving jerkily, backed by a corrugated metal sheet that was being waved to create the stuttering effect of Max Headroom's glitching digital appearance. The sound was distorted and high-pitched. The intrusion lasted about 28 seconds before WGN's engineers managed to regain control by switching to a backup transmitter. 2 hours after the WGN intrusion, the same person or group struck again. WTTW, the Chicago PBS affiliate, was broadcasting an episode of Doctor Who when the signal was again replaced by the Max Headroom figure. This time, the engineers could not cut off the intrusion. WTTW broadcast facility at that time was unmanned at night, with no one to flip the transmitter switch. The intrusion lasted approximately 90 seconds. During this longer segment, the figure made incoherent statements, held up a Pepsi can and said he had the advantage, and was then bent over and struck on the buttocks with a flyswatter by a person in a French-made costume. The intrusion ended abruptly. Technical execution of the intrusion was sophisticated. Overriding a television broadcast signal in 1987 required specialized equipment. A high-power transmitter operating on the same frequency as the target station, positioned in the transmitter's direct line of sight to dominate the signal. The intruder managed this on 2 separate occasions in the same evening, from different angles or with equipment that could be quickly repositioned. The FCC estimated that the equipment required would have cost several $1,000s in 1987, not a trivial investment, and required technical knowledge of broadcast engineering. The FCC and Chicago police investigated immediately. They traced the signal's origin to a general area of Chicago, but could not pinpoint the transmitter's location. They interviewed people with the technical knowledge and equipment to pull off such an intrusion: amateur radio operators, broadcast engineers, electronics enthusiasts, but could not obtain sufficient evidence for a search warrant. A contemporary FCC official later stated in an interview that investigators had identified suspects at the time, but could never build a case that would satisfy the legal standard for a search warrant. The content of the intrusions has been extensively analyzed for cultural references and potential clues to the perpetrator's identity. The figure references New Coke, classic Chicago DJ Dick Biondi, and the music of Clutch Cargo. Some analysts have noted that the specific cultural references suggest the perpetrators were young men in their late teens or 20s in Chicago in 1987, old enough to remember early 1960s local television culture. The Pepsi can reference may have been commentary on Coke's Max Headroom advertising, turning the commercial character against a competitor. The French-made costume has been analyzed as a reference to local Chicago culture. The statute of limitations on whatever charges might have applied to the 1987 intrusion has long since expired. In legal terms, whoever did it can no longer be prosecuted for that act. This has prompted some people who claim knowledge of the incident to speak more freely. In late 2023, a post appeared on a Reddit forum where a person claiming to be the sibling of one of the perpetrators provided specific details about the intrusion that matched unpublicized aspects of the case, and stated that the perpetrators had been a small group of young people with electronics expertise. The claim was not officially verified, but was treated as highly credible by people who had studied the case for years. The Max Headroom incident endures in internet culture partly because of its inherently surreal quality. The corrupted broadcast aesthetic was ahead of its time in a way that feels prophetic to internet-era viewers, and partly because it has never been officially solved. The footage, available on YouTube, has the quality of something deliberately sinister that was also apparently improvised and chaotic. It is disturbing precisely because it is incoherent. The perpetrators either had a specific message that was too encoded to be understood, or they simply wanted to do something bizarre on television. Either possibility is genuinely strange. On November 22, 1987, someone took control of television. For 28 seconds and then 90 seconds, the most powerful broadcast medium of the era was owned by a person in a mask, a waving sheet of corrugated metal, and a flyswatter. They were never caught. Their message, if there was one, was never decoded. The FCC investigation is closed. The statute of limitations has passed. Whoever did it got away with it. The only successful broadcast signal intrusion in American television history. And the person in the Max Headroom mask is somewhere, possibly watching the millions of views their 90-second performance has accumulated, still anonymous, still free.